Kia ora everyone, welcome to These Guys Got Next, our NBA basketball podcast where we deliver our hot takes and analysis from the bench. I'm Elijah for a few. He's Ravindu Pathirana. Ravi, how are you going this week? How's everything on your end?
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. Really looking forward to the Christmas break, actually. 2 more weeks. I'll be back in New Zealand. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to spending Christmas with the family. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely getting hot out these ways. Like I've mentioned it before in previous episodes, summer is pretty much here in New Zealand and Australia. So definitely some fun times out there to go to the beach and slip on some sunscreen and
Mm.
hang out with mates and have a good old nice summer break. So that's we're not here to talk about our summer just yet or talk about our holidays. We're here to talk about the NBA, another action-packed week. First things first, we're going to start things off in the Western Conference. Actually, usually we start off in the East, but we're gonna start in the West because for me the big story this week was Ja Morant announcing that his dunking era is over. Well, it was until he pulled off this amazing double clutch dunk against the Boston Celtics. Firstly, let's touch on that dunk. Rav, how could Ja Morant tease us like this and pull off something so amazing?
Mate, he's obviously been learning a lot under Derek Rose. Like he said, help him become a man, but showing, I think it was KP, wasn't it, that he put on the
Yeah,
poster?
KP and Derek
Yeah,
White, I think. Yeah.
yeah, Derek White, yeah, beat him off the dribble, and oh my days, bro! Like double clutch behind the back, said, yeah, not gonna dunk anyway, and he just got pulled that off.
Yeah, it's already dunk of the year,
Outrageous.
I reckon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely up there. Unless we'll see something even more spectacular from him.
yeah, and I mean, if that's one of the last big dunks or highlight reel dunks Ja Morant does, then what a way to go out. But he did say earlier this week that he was going to look after his long term health and do less dunking than we usually see from him, which is fair enough. I mean, we've seen throughout his career he's had a lot of injuries here and there, partly due to him, you know, launching off his feet and landing a bit awkwardly. He had an injury this season where he injured his hip or his he had like a pelvic injury, and that was
Yeah.
because he had an awkward fall on an alley-oop attempt. And you brought up Derek Rose. Like, if there's one player who we look at in this league who has suffered because of the amount of times they've gone up for dunks, it's Derek Rose. I mean, like, what do you think about what Ja Morant said, bringing up Derek Rose and having him as a mentor pretty much when D Rose was in Memphis?
Yeah, I think a very, I guess, invaluable experience, right? What D Rose would have brought to the table because very similar play styles, very athletic, very flashy, explosive. I guess yeah, we touched a little bit when we pretended to be sports scientists in terms of the landing style. So that's something he can, Ja Morant definitely can learn in terms of how he lands a bit better. But I guess no better person to learn from, right? Because Derek Rose literally been there, done that in terms of his explosive dunks and resulted in, unfortunately, going the wrong way and his body not being able to handle his athletic ability. But yeah, if he can pass on some wisdom and hopefully Jar's career is elongated because of that, yeah, I'm all for it, man. He's just an exciting player to watch. It's awesome to watch him.
For sure. And Ja did say when he was asked about why he was, doing less dunks, he pretty much just said, sometimes I get knocked out in the air and, those calls don't get called by referees, which is fair enough. There have been occasions where that happens. But that sort of leads me to another moment involving Ja this week, his ejection against the Kings, an automatic ejection for a second technical foul where he was deemed to have fouled DeMar DeRozan, who, let's be honest, it wasn't a foul. Like, I thought he was legally guarding him, and the NBA thought so too, because they brought out one of those last 2 minute reports, didn't they, Rav, and
Yeah,
saying
oh
that
mate.
that was the wrong call.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough as a player when you don't get calls go your way, and then it's even tougher when you get told that the ref made a bad call. But man, the frustration. I thought it was like it was very animated, very comical to see. So we'll throw up a little clip of that on for the viewers. But that was very very funny to see.
And I guess the Memphis Grizzlies as a whole, they've been one of the, I don't want to say surprises, because we knew how good this Grizzlies roster was going to be when Ja and Jaren and Desmond Bain and pretty much when they were healthy compared to last season. Right now, they're currently third in the West with a 16-8 record. Had a big win against the Celtics today in Boston, which is a huge,
Huge.
going up against the defending champions. But right now they're fifth in offensive rating, they're sixth in defensive rating. So both ways they're really playing really well in guys like Jaren Jackson, as I've mentioned, 21.7 points, 5.8 rebounds, 1.7 blocks he's averaging this season. What do you sort of make of the rest of the squad? Because there's a lot of young guys in this squad who've been contributing really well to Memphis's start this season.
I mean, let's start with Jalen Wells. You know, this Western Conference Rookie of the Month this month. 12 points, 3.5 boards, 45.7 from the field, and 38 or 39% from three. And yeah, he's 39th pick of the draft, and he's just looked really awesome this league. And absence of all the injuries that have kind of plagued this team, here and there, and he's really stepped up, and he's a reliable player. So they can, someone can. I mean, kind of someone that's really surprised me as well, Santi Aldama. Off the bench, he's getting double doubles in most games, really supplementing Jaren Jackson Jr. in his role as well, and especially in the absence of Zach Edey, because I think he's out for another couple of weeks as per the news this week.
Yeah, and you brought up Zach Edey. Like, when we previewed this Memphis team, we brought up Zach Edey as being the key rookie out of this class. Well, not just in the class, but on this team. But it turns out that Jalen Wells has been probably the more impactful player, impactful rookie for this team this season. And you can tell that they trust him because he's started 18 out of 23 games so far this season, well, 19 of 24, including Boston's game today. But the Grizzlies, they're doing really well. Joining them near the top of the Western Conference are the Dallas Mavericks, who they've had a shaky start to the season. They've pretty much strung a nice number of wins together. They've won 7 in a row now. They're also 16-8, and they're currently second in the West, fourth in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating. I guess the interesting thing about this 7-game win streak was part of it was when Luka was injured, and Luka's only just come back in the last few games. I guess, what did you sort of make of this team when Luka was sidelined? Because they had guys who stepped up when they needed to.
One of the guys I've been really impressed with was PJ Washington, and I'm not saying that because he's in my fantasy team, but I'm gonna. Yeah, he's been really well. He had a career night last week. It was 27-17, I believe from memory. And yeah, every team needs that kind of Swiss Army knife guy. He's almost like that. Armin Thompson for the Rockets does everything, does the dirty work. So that's awesome to see. But yeah, really interesting that how they performed, or they did perform without in the absence of Luka. So this shows a lot of depth. And one guy got to give a shout out to, Spencer Dinwiddie, came up in big moments as well. So really awesome to see him getting his shooting form again.
Yeah, and these were pretty much the things we touched on when we were previewing the Dallas Mavericks. That all these new acquisitions, Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, Spencer Dinwiddie. This is pretty much what we thought they would, or how we thought they would contribute to this team. Should Luka or Kyrie go down, but Luka, he came back this week, as I mentioned, recorded his first triple double of the season against the Wizards. I don't know why everything seems to happen against the Wizards, but we'll touch on that later on. But Luka, 78th career triple double, which is tied with James Harden and Wilt Chamberlain for 7th all time. Funnily enough, that was his first triple double of the season, which you'd think for a guy like Luka, who is used to putting up those numbers, you thought he would have clocked the triple double earlier in the year, but no, it seems like he's done it this week against the Wizards. So, but the Mavs and the Grizzlies, they're two teams who are really climbing up there in the West and competing with the likes of the Thunder and the Rockets. Moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers, they were a team who were firing out the gate, 10-4. Since they went to 10-4, they've now gone 2-7 since. Lost 4 games by 25 or more points in the last 2 weeks. So they've really struggled out there. Rav, why do you reckon the Lakers have struggled as of late?
Pretty simple. There's no one else to score the ball other than Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And we'll touch on LeBron's battle against Father Time, which he has been winning for the most part. But no one else has been scoring in this team. And defense is terrible. I don't know if you watched that Heat game, but they just showed no effort. Like, there was one particular play where Duncan Robinson was under the basket. He had almost a Ben Simmons-esque moment where he just wasn't sure what to do. It was an easy bucket underneath, but because the Lakers weren't playing any defense, he just confused, pass, ended up being a Tyler Hero 3. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is, like, guys need to step up. The third option needs to be consistent. And this is, again, going back to the preview episode, this is something they need to have, the third option that is very consistent. So I'm hoping they'll be a bit active in the trade market and get someone that's worth it.
Yeah, in terms of that third option you brought up, yeah, that guy was supposed to be Austin Reeves, and at times he's shown that he's flashed that ability, but defensively he's a liability. And along with a guy like Dalton Connect, like they're both great shooters or great guys to have on offense, but defensively they're both guys you kind of don't want on the court together, especially when you're pairing them with a 40-year-old or nearly 40-year-old LeBron James. Anthony Davis can only do so much. DeAndre Russell's also on the team, and he sort of shows up when he wants to, and he's been benched as well, so he's pretty much learning a new role. The other guard options aren't so great either. Max Christie, Cam Reddish, Gabe Vincent, none of those guys have really stepped up when they needed to in the guard position. So yeah, the Lakers are struggling, and they definitely need some help. And it's probably why we've been bringing them up in terms of being active at the trade deadline, because there's a lot of things that they need.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. Rui is doing decent enough, but again, it's just that lack of consistency. So hopefully they can move a couple of pieces. Maybe like, I don't know, 3-for-1 trade, 2-for-1 trade, whatever. Just make it a consistent player who will put up decent numbers for your team and support you defensively. So that's what they got to look out for. Maybe we'll do some trade scenarios in one of the upcoming episodes and see what'll work for them.
Yeah, for sure. I have seen like stats or like posts around JJ Redick's coaching record compared to Darvin Ham's last season, and they were pretty much similar. Analyzing both of them, the defensive ratings dropped slightly under JJ, and the offensive rating too is slightly below Darvin Ham. But again, with JJ, it's a smaller sample size. But yeah, you'd think hopefully down the line that once the Lakers get some help at some point, then those offensive and defensive ratings can lift, and the Lakers can definitely be a playoff team or a play-in team, wherever you think the Lakers are going to be. But yeah, we mentioned LeBron and his battle with Father Time. Well, at least I think he's starting to battle with Father Time. Do you think he's battling with Father Time, or do you think he's still thriving as per usual?
It's so hard to say. Like we look at him on like his impact, his I guess energy in the game. He looks drained. You know, it's what 23 seasons now of and a lot of trips to the postseason as well. That's a hell of a lot of games for any athlete. But it's always really funny with LeBron. You say, oh, he's battling Father Time, whatever. He's slowing down. Then he has an unreal game. Like he had a triple double, 39, 10, and 11. Mind you, in overtime, but still being able to put up those numbers at that age when you're almost 40 is, unbelievable to me.
Like individually, great stats, right? But I think his impact on winning has sort of slowed down a little bit. Yeah. And like the reason he put up those numbers is because no one else on that team is contributing. So LeBron's doing everything he can, which is he's pretty much used to that throughout his career.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the impact I think on winning is not there anymore, and he sort of needs their help. And it's sort of why the Lakers have gone ahead with AD as the number one option as well to sort of help LeBron. Like some stats I was looking up, his plus minus this season is minus 129, which is the 15th worst mark in the league. And the players ahead of him are players from the Wizards, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. So 3 of the worst teams in the league. So that goes to show like his impact on the court is just not there anymore. He's not as impactful as he once was in his career. He's shooting poorly from 3, 35.9, which I mean by his standards that's pretty poor. He was 41% last season. So even like the thing that's he's adapted to as he's gotten older, his shooting, that's sort of slowed down a little bit. So he sort of needs to pick that up. There was a period this week where LeBron went 0 from 19 from 3 across 4 games. So his shooting has definitely died down or slowed down. He barely kept his double-digit scoring streak alive against the T-Wolves this week. He got 10 points in that game. The streak's at 1,245 games, which is great and all, but I mean, he also wants to play 82 games, which I don't think is realistic. Especially when JJ's come out and said, I don't know if that's the best interest of him and us. The fact that he mentioned "and us" means that JJ's like, yeah, I don't know if the winning impact's there, but hey, like you're still one of our best players, so. But I don't want to run you into the ground and force you into retirement, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, do you
I
have any
mean,
final thoughts on LeBron?
I was
Yeah.
just going to say that's where the third piece comes in, right? It's just supporting LeBron. Like we know AD is the point man, and JJ's running his offense through AD, and LeBron's there to support him. But we just need someone to support those two because it's got to be somewhat of a three-headed snake. Otherwise, yeah, you just can't do it, and it's just not sustainable. Father Time's just going to keep closing his gap on LeBron, and it's going to end very shortly, which is going to cause a lot of sadness for a lot of people around the world.
Yeah, and it's even sad. It's sad just to talk about the
Mm.
fact that this is like LeBron, arguably the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. Other people may disagree, but the fact that he's at this point of his career is pretty yeah, it's pretty sad to see. But we did bring up the Lakers because they had a game. They did have a win this week against the Utah Jazz, which was at the fault of the Utah Jazz because if you haven't seen the clip, Coach Will Hardy called a premature timeout when Colin Sexton pretty much had a game winner. He drove to the bucket, and then Hardy called a timeout because he saw that Sexton did a retreat double dribble, a retreat dribble backwards rather, which pretty much led to him calling the timeout. Did you watch the play, Rav? Like, what did you sort of make of that
Yeah,
situation?
like, I mean, you summed it perfectly, right? Lakers didn't win. The Jazz just lost that game, unfortunately. But yeah, simple mistake. Like we saw Spo made a bit of a mistake as well. So fair enough, Will Hardy makes a mistake, but it's just you'd be really gutted if you were Colin Sexton because having a nice sort of game winner to put your team get a nice win under your belt, but unfortunately wasn't the case. So I'm gonna it's hard to let it slide. But yeah, unlucky Colin. Try again next time, mate.
Yeah, but even that dribble backwards he did, like I was watching the clip. That's pretty much him just trying to size him up, or at least trying to like find a way to get. His defender was Rui Hachimura,
Hmm.
which at that point you have to like let the play go. Like
100%, 100%.
Rui is not the greatest defender, and
Mm.
Sexton can easily blow by him. So yeah, it was surprising to see that Will Hardy did call that timeout. But hey, another L there for the Jazz this season. Speaking of the Utah Jazz, they did say this week that they're gonna have a fire sale of their own with
Mm.
guys like Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, and Colin Sexton. Rav, I know you've been busy with the trade machine again this week. What have you sort of conjured up in terms of you know putting these veterans into possible contending teams?
Yeah, I've gone for another three-team trade involving Clarkson, John Collins, and Colin Sexton, involving the Heat and the Pistons. So I've gone a little bit interesting. Obviously, picks and stuff come into play as we talked about, and also taken into the fact that the cap space. We spoke about the five teams, Pistons being one of them, and they're in a really good spot at the moment. So they can really push. So hence why I kind of pitched the Pistons again this time. So I've gone for the Jazz, getting Duncan Robinson, Isaiah Stewart, Asar Thompson, Ron Holland II, and Josh Richardson. Heat getting Colin Sexton and John Collins, help them contend. And the Pistons getting Jordan Clarkson and Terry Rozier, just adding some scoring off the bench for them. Um, why I've gone for this? Heat need to compete now. So I think just getting a couple of really good scorers like Colin Sexton is having a great year, decent year. John Collins is having a great year, so it'd be awesome to pair them up alongside. Like Tyler Harrow's having an unreal year. I guess going for like the Twin Tower esque again with John Collins and Bam at the 4 and the 5. Pistons can go one of two ways. They can gear up right now, get this team all meshed in time for the playoffs to make a bit of a push, or they can kind of experiment a wee bit here and there and then make a big push next year. And for the Jazz, they get a couple of young guys and a couple of tradable assets as well that they can pass off and even put a decent shooter around Walker Kessler and Laurie Markkinen. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I like that trade. I like you pretty much summed it up well. The Heat need to step up in the East, even though the East is weak, but the Heat need to show that they can compete with the Knicks and the Celtics and the Cavs. The Pistons, I like them as a young team. I like Cade Cunningham, so the more help he gets will definitely help him in his development and help him in his career. In the Jazz, you've given them a whole lot of young guys as well, which they need at this point. So I think you've pretty much got all bases covered. Um, was it was it an easy trade to put together, or was there a player that you struggled to find a team or struggled to like move around at all?
I think Jordan Clarkson was one of them, and Terry Rozier's got a contract. I think 24.3 mil. So that was a bit hard to move around. But again, that's why I lent towards to see who's got the most cap space.
Cap space.
Yeah. I think that kind of, I mean, for me anyway, it just makes it easier on this trade machine. But yeah, and it also supplements what the Pistons are after, someone to score off the bench. Malik Beasley's doing an okay job at the moment, but again, they just need that extra bit of scoring to help them, make a bit of a push.
Cool. Awesome. Love your work thereof. And hopefully we can do some more trade scenarios in the future with, any other team that wants to do a fire sale. In terms of today's performances, a couple of big performances today. Nikola Jokic, 56 points, a career high. Awesome for him. The Nuggets also lost to the Wizards, so not so awesome for him. So, yeah, they snapped. Thanks to the Jokic, the Nuggets snapped the Wizards' 16-game losing streak. So how good for them.
Awesome, man.
I was actually really surprised. Yeah, I was. Yeah, after No Win November as well. I was actually really surprised to see that result. The Wizards, they got up for that game at home, didn't they?
Yeah, man, awesome to see. I mean, Jordan Poole must have had a couple of baddies on the sideline, and that's why he teed off. I mean, he pulled 23s. He attempted 23s. That's one of the things that stood out to me today. That's outrageous as a singular player. He had 39, 5 and 8, but yeah, just to pull 23s, it's insane.
He had the spirit of the Splash Brothers from when he was in Golden State in him. He remembered he was the third Splash Brother at some point in his career. So he just wanted to bring that back for this game. And another player, Evan Mobley, career high 41 points to go with 10 rebounds. This is the sort of the performance I was looking for when I picked him as my most improved player of the year. But yeah, very, very impressive performance for Cleveland. And Cleveland, they've had a few losses as of late, but they're still competitive in the Eastern Conference, so that's really good to see. We'll head over to the Eastern Conference now fully. The big news, Franz Wagner, major injury. He's going to be out for a while. A torn oblique, which is the exact same injury that Paolo Banchero had. Rav, what is the deal with obliques in Orlando? Do they just not operate or something? What's going on there?
My thing is just don't score more than 90 points over a span of 3 games, because I was just looking at the last 3 games before Paolo's injury and Franz's injury. Paolo scored 97 and Franz scored 95. So if you're a player out there who's thinking of averaging over 30 points in the next 3 games, just watch out for that oblique.
Well, the good news for the Magic is no one else on that team can score. So I don't think the rest of the squad needs to worry. And I think that's the key question right now is who steps up in the absence of your 2 leading scorers, because after those 2, there's only 2 other players on that roster who average double figures in points, and that's Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner. And I don't know if they're capable of putting up the numbers that Franz and Paolo were capable of pulling.
I don't think anyone can. I think it's KCP next up with 8.3 points a game, which is, I don't know, like it's really hard when 2 prolific scorers and who carry the defensive load. Like Franz did a hell of a job ever since Paolo got injured. But in saying that though, it's only for 2 games that these guys need to worry about, because Paolo's estimated to come back on the 19th, all going well. But instead, one of those 2 games is the knockout for the NBA Cup against the Bucks. So if they can kind of conjure up something and maybe like a Cole Anthony or a Anthony Black step up, awesome. But again, just lot of question marks in this team.
Yeah, and if you play fantasy, this is probably the week you want to try and stream one of these Magic players. So hints, if you're listening out there. But that's pretty much the Orlando Magic. And you mentioned that knockout game against the Bucks. We'll touch on that a bit later on. The New York Knicks, we talked about how good the offense has been. It's hitting historic levels now because their starting 5 is averaging 98.4 points per game combined. Of course, that's Towns, Brunson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. If they keep up that pace, they'd be the highest scoring starting 5 of all time, which beats last season's Boston Celtics 5, which is one of the great starting 5s in the league. And also the 7 seconds or less Suns in 04 and 05. So that's Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire and co. Yeah. And they had Mike D'Antoni as their coach. So Yeah, this is awesome. If you're a Knicks fan to see, I mean, awesome for you too, Ralph, because you did pick them. So this is actually, I'll leave it to you to gloat about how well your Knicks are, or your pick for the championship is going.
Yeah, man. I mean, biggest surprising, I guess, thing for me was the fact that OG stepped up over the last month, which has been awesome. Had a 40 ball. I mean, then he dropped off, fair enough, but he stepped up really well. Josh Hart is doing a hell of a role. I think he's averaging 11.3 boards or something, second behind Cat. But I mean, we got Precious Achua back from hamstring injury, so awesome. I'm saying we like I support them. I'm just going to back them to win
You
the
might as
chip
well,
this year.
bro. Yeah, I mean the Clippers aren't going to be close, so you get a pass.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks, man. I mean, like the question mark with the Knicks, and we covered this multiple times, is their depth at center. They got Jericho Sims, who started this the most recent game, but only played 6 minutes. And that's because he's had a string of blunders, and the most recent one seems like Coach Tibbs was just fed up with him and just pulled him. Um, and was replaced by Ariel Hukporti, and I apologize for the mispronunciation name. He was a 58, the final pick of the 2024 draft. Looked good, but there was defensively, there's a lot of issues because when you're playing with such a deep rotation, there's obviously mismatches and situations where you will get caught out of position. And saying that, yeah, like they just need to gel a lot better. Like Knicks, when so we talk about Prisha Chua played center, Sims played center, and Hukporti played center as well. So in this time in that game, um, the Knicks outscored the Pistons by 10 when Achua was at the center position, but then got outscored by 9 in the 6 minutes that Jericho Sims played, as well as by 13 when Hukporti was playing center. Knicks just got to be hopeful that Cat stays healthy until January when Mitchell Robinson's back to just provide some extra support in the front court. But yeah, awesome, man. Just really, really looking forward to see how these guys win the chip. I'm going to stick to it. Like you quadruple down, I'm going to double down. So my second time, but here we are.
Yeah, well, it's easy for you to double down, right? Like when they're doing so well, it's a bit tricky for me to do so when the Sixers are going. They have picked up a couple of wins as of late, so they're slowly making the climb back. Okay, so they're gonna sneak into the play, and then it's gonna be trouble for the rest of the league. Anyway, the Charlotte Hornets, they're a team that's actually been struggling as of late. They've had a whole lot of injuries. LaMelo Ball being the big one. He's got bit of a calf issue going on, and timeline suggests he should be back in about a week or so. They've also had Grant Williams, a season-ending knee injury. Trey Mann's got a back problem. Miles Bridges is having a bit of an issue with his knee as well. So that's 4 of their top 6 scorers. And it's pretty much left the load to Brandon Miller, who I think at times has shown he can be that guy to step up, but it's probably not as consistent as we'd like it to be. What have you sort of made of Brandon Miller so far in the absence of LaMelo?
Prolific scorer. We've seen what he's been able to do, especially in the absence of Lamelo, or even playing alongside Lamelo. So we touched that. How they gel really well together in terms of his touches and his ability to put the ball in the bucket. That was really cool to see him kind of go toe to toe against PG. Unfortunately, Sixers walked away with the win. But yeah, I'm really hoping he carries on. But we touched on Lamelo here and there a little bit. I'm just going to pivot the conversation there. It's just even though he's having a career year around his points scored, like 24 last season, 31 this season, his brand of basketball isn't really suited for winning. And they've lost 8 straight. And even though 5 have only been by 6 points or less, it's not really winning basketball. So I'm hoping that LaMelo can, contribute better to this team, because I think he was averaging 8 assists last season to 5.7 this season. So hopefully, yeah, he picks his play style up and is able to contribute more and build a winning culture in Charlotte.
Yeah, and that comes with getting the right teammates around you as well. I think Grant Williams was a great teammate because he was probably the guy that was doing the dirty work for Charlotte before his injury, and now they don't really have that guy anymore in Charlotte. And Trey Mann was a great 6th man of the year player, and Miles Bridges as well. They sort of need their number, another scoring option there. So I think if LaMelo has great teammates around him as well, that sort of will contribute to the winning basketball in Charlotte. But they have welcomed back Nick Richards and Mark Williams, so that's a boost for their front court. Uh, moving to Atlanta and DeAndre Hunter. We already talked about Atlanta in the previous episode, but DeAndre Hunter for me, I think is starting to put together a really nice Sixth Man of the Year campaign. Which they all seem to be coming out of the East. All these candidates, Peyton Pritchard at the Celtics and Ty Jerome at the Cavs. But DeAndre Hunter, I think, is building a really nice campaign, especially with this winning streak that the Hawks have been on. How impressed have you been with DeAndre Hunter and his contribution to the team?
Yeah, man, big fan. I mean, we touched on it a little bit last time. I think he's averaging 19, and he scored 20 or more points in his last in 5 of his 6 games. Right, so it's really good to see, and he acts as that good plug off the bench alongside Bogdan Bogdanovic for the Hawks, and an additional scorer for Trae Young as well, just to a reliable scorer for Trae Young. But again, concerns are the fact that his health. He's only played over 60 games in the last in 2 or more seasons of his 5, 6, going into his 6th year now. Um, but yeah, it's just he's dealing with a bit of right knee issues this season. But I'm hoping he is able to carry on a little bit more. And we speak about longevity a wee bit here and there, especially with the addition of Dyson Daniels and Zachary Reese-Shea. He'll be able to take, I guess, more or better workloads on the defensive end.
Yeah, and that's been the key. That's pretty much opened up DeAndre Hunter on the offensive end, is the fact that they acquired Dyson Daniels in the trade. They drafted Reese Shea, and they've pretty much taken it upon themselves to help out on the defensive end, which has allowed Hunter to thrive offensively. So, and like what a boost for Atlanta to have two guys like Hunter and Bogdanovich coming off your bench. Like when you're starting five, you got Jalen Johnson, Reese Shea, Dyson, Trey, and Capella, and then like there's a strong rotation and definitely a rotation to watch as the season goes on. And they're also going to
as well, man, off the bench.
exactly who I think should be getting more minutes and should eventually take over from Capella. So yeah, a really exciting squad, and really good for Trae Young's sake, I guess, as well. And the NBA Cup quarterfinals are coming up this week. Don't ask how teams qualified or the points differential, because that would take a whole episode just to explain. The thing, all you need to know is that the quarterfinals are this week. It's the Bucks v the Magic, the Knicks against the Hawks, the Thunder against the Mavs, the Rockets against the Warriors. Rav, which game stands out to you? Which one are you looking forward to watching this week?
I'm looking forward to the Bucks Magic, just because I had them initially picked because I wanted the Magic and the Rockets to be in the finals, with the Rockets taking it. However, this call was made before we woke up this morning, and so Franz Wagner's injury. So I'm still looking forward to it, because I just want to see who the third option is and how these guys survive in the absence of both Paolo and Franz.
Well, that's boosted my pick in terms of the Bucks winning the NBA Cup. So thanks a lot, Franz, for doing your oblique. No, but like, yeah, I am interested to see who steps up for the Magic. But also, I guess from the Bucks, then Chris Middleton's back, and seeing him how he integrates with Giannis and Dame. I mean, is Middleton even going to play? He should do.
Didn't have a great start in his first game back. I think he shot 20%, 30 something percent from.
I mean, that will ramp up as usual, as people do from injuries or long-term injuries. And Giannis and Dame have both been thriving in the NBA Cup. They've both averaged 29 in the tournament so far. So yeah, that's the Bucks and the Magic. Knicks and Hawks is actually the game that I'm looking forward to, mainly for the fact that it's Trae Young against New York in Madison Square Garden. And we know about the storied rivalry. Trae Young had that post game moments earlier in the season where he called out the Knicks fans in Atlanta and told them to go find the exits or make your way, take your ass home. Yeah, there we go. And the thing about the Knicks is that they've outscored opponents by more than 17 points at home, so they thrive when they're playing at home. But going up against Atlanta and Dyson Daniels, a leading defensive player of the year contender, I'm looking forward to that matchup. And in terms of the Western Conference, the Thunder and the Mavs, this should be a really good matchup. It's pretty much a rematch of their playoff series last year, but they've already faced off this season as well.
I think this is our Western Conference final matchup, right, for the both of us when we did the playoff episode.
I believe so. Yeah, must
Yeah,
have been.
or maybe the Timberwolves sneak in there, but who knows? But yeah, man, definitely looking forward to this one. I mean, something we've spoken about a wee bit is how OKC handles Mavs size. Because you know they're tall and they do a lot, but the likes of Daniel Gafford and there and Derek Lively and PJ Washington now playing really well. Um, Taking into account Isaiah Hartenstein's now back, and he's had some decent performances in the last since he's back from injury. So it definitely should be a popcorn worthy game for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the Rockets and the Warriors is the final matchup in the NBA Cup quarterfinals. They last met, well, we don't have to look back too far because they met earlier this week and the Warriors won 99-93. It was quite a low scoring game between two very good defenses. Golden State had no Steph Curry and Draymond in that game, and it took Jonathan Kuminga scoring a career high 33 points for the win. And I think there was news I read this morning that Steve Kerr is planning to bench Draymond in favor of Jonathan Kuminga, which is a massive switch up on Steve Kerr's end. The fact that he now believes in Kuminga all of a sudden and wants to try and maximize his ability. But looking at this Rockets Warriors matchup, yeah, how do you sort of assess this matchup? Because this is definitely another one to look forward to.
I mean, I've got the Rockets winning the NBA Cup, so let's see how they go. I mean, Wiggins is out with a left ankle or right ankle injury. Sorry, he left in the third quarter of their last game, and Moses Moody was out in the first half with left knee soreness, either one. Just knee soreness in general. But let's see. Yeah, it should be very entertaining because the very defensive heavy teams, but have people who can go off on the offensive end. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Just while we're on the
Also, man,
NBA Cup,
yeah,
Eli, just got a bit of a fun stat for you. Who do you reckon had the highest points per game in the NBA Cup?
um, okay, because I've got nothing to work off.
I think 122 points a game. That's the other hint I'll give you.
Oh, you're talking about a team rather
Yeah,
than
a
a player.
team. Yeah.
Okay, well that's completely shifted. Okay, uh, well I'm thinking the top three offenses in the league are the Knicks, Cavs, and the Celtics. I think the fact that you're asking this question means it's someone that's a bit more surprising. So I'm gonna go the Dallas Mavericks.
Chicago Bulls.
Oh wow. Okay, well that's completely off the radar. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, I was very, very surprised.
well I don't know what it is about the Eastern Conference and these high scoring, high
Yes, it's
octane
for whatever
offenses,
reason.
right?
Yeah, bizarre.
Okay, well, I mean, it was all for naught because the Bulls aren't in the quarterfinals, so rough for them. So maybe next year Chicago.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was actually a really cool stat. Thanks for sharing that, Rav. And finally, as always, we end this episode with the quickfire segment. Um, we might as well just get stuck into it, right, Rav?
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1. Rav, other than the Ja Morant dunk against the Celtics, what is your favorite Ja dunk of all time?
The one he did over Mike Conley, where he just cleared Mike Conley when he was trying to get a charge. So yeah, that stands out. How about you?
The one over Aaron Baines, which I think it might have been rookie or second year because he had his short hair. So I imagine it was rookie year.
That was nasty. All
Yeah,
right, so I'm gonna. It's a bit of a long question, but guess which team is in top five of all these categories: points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and field goal percentage.
I'm gonna go Spurs.
Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay. Close. Timberwolves are looking to be active before the trade deadline. Rav, which assets do they ship?
I'm thinking Dante DiVincenzo and maybe Rob Dillingham just to attract a decent star for them. And Eli Jazz have had the highest TOs, 29 this season against the Thunder. In light of this, which active player do you reckon has the highest turnovers in a game?
Uh, Lamelo Ball.
Giannis with 12.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's interesting. There we go, and that's the time there. Rav, thanks so much again, as always, for joining me on this episode, and thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you watch us on YouTube or listen to us on Spotify at These Guys Got Next. Until then, we got next and Matiwa.